All right, welcome back, everybody. So today you can look at your site, and it's not super pretty. So what we're going to go over is styling, and styling in React and specifically Material UI are the methods that we're going to use to make this look pretty and feel good to use. So let's get into it. So traditionally, in web development, your styling is going to be based on CSS. So CSS is its own sort of language that in web development can highlight different pieces and parts of your site and give them specific stylings. This is anything from the color, the alignment, the size, whether it's got rounded edges, whether it's got padding around it, which means there's more white space, whether it's outlined, which texts, whether it's floating in comparison to other things. So when you look at this nav bar, it's above other things. Really, anything in the way that your site feels is traditionally done in CSS. And in React, there's a lot of intermingling between CSS. That being said, React has its own way of styling, and although it takes a lot of the knowledge from CSS, it can be done in several different ways. Typically, though, React recommends doing an entire style sheet. And when you build a style sheet, this is more of a full file of CSS that you use to pull in your React components. So let's take a look at some of the CSS that we have in here. This will be something like body. So wherever inside of our app that we're calling something a body element, then this styling is what's passed in. There's also app CSS. So app, you can see there's text alignments, heights, animations, colors, basically just a ton of different elements that highlight individual pieces of your site and give them different stylings. Now what's really interesting about our site is the Material UI. Alright, so let's dig into these Material UI stylings. Even though we haven't talked about it, they're already inside of your app. So go ahead and look at that post list or the post item file that we created before. When you look at this import statement right here, this make styles, that's how Material UI builds up a style sheet within JavaScript. So make styles you can see highlighted under here. You can call this constant whatever you want, but basically it takes this theme and sets out the CSS styling that we talked about earlier. For instance, anything inside with card as its class name will now take on these stylings. So this is its max width. Anything with the media class name, let's find that one right here. So now that has all the styling of whatever's inside of media, in addition to whatever's on top of the card. So you can nest these styles inside of each other so that at each level, pieces that are nested inside of each other take on the styling properties of their ancestor. So wherever it's nested within, the style cascades. As we know from CSS cascading style sheets, it makes it really convenient inside of React to just put your style sheet directly into a single constant right here with make styles from Material UI. So that's how we're going to build out most of our website. For now though, let's take a look at some of the easier ways inside of React without Material UI. For example, look at our site. We've got this header, and we know that there's something underneath here, but we can't see it yet because the header styling puts it on top of the page, so whatever's behind it, you can't tell. Let's change that up with a quick addition right here to the position property of the app bar, and we'll make that relative. There we go. Give that a save, make sure it compiles, and now, because of this relative positioning, you can see what's below it now. So let's go take a look inside of that CSS position element. So this position property has a couple of different fields that it can take. These values can be static, relative, fixed, absolute, sticky, and definitely go back into, I suggest, W3 Schools for a little bit of learning and explanation on what these CSS properties do. Alright, so let's take a look at what we have here for this blog preview, this blog item that we're going to be using. So far, when we go into this styling, you have things like max width equals 345. And this means that the card that's getting shown right here has a max width of 345 pixels. And that's fine for, a basic desktop site. Maybe you want it longer, you can make that width 500, maybe you want it shorter, and just drop the number on that. But the problem is today, people don't have the same screen size, but you want this to be a consistent look for all of your websites, especially when you take into consideration something like a mobile viewer who goes onto your website from their phone. So how do we deal with that? Do you want different style sheets, some sort of thing that'll make your app know when it's being used on a mobile and pull in the width and height of every single screen size? That seems like a lot of trouble. So to fix that, we've got something called Flex. Alright, so inside this Flex you can define things like the percentage of the screen size that it'll take. And basically we put in something like display, direction, wrap, flow, all of these things that will style your site such that it's based on the site, it's based on the window that the site's being displayed in. Let's put it like that. So you can make this columns, you can make this rows. It really just simplifies the whole process rather than having to think about the amount of pixels that are being popped up for CSS. So let's go ahead and use this FlexBot inside of our card and make this blog item, this preview, look a little better. Alright, so you've got a little update on this Flexbox, but the beauty of Flexbox comes in when you talk about multiple components taking up portions of their given space. So we can use a lot of Flexbox styling things inside of this make styles for an individual post item. So let's say width is now 100%. Get rid of that max width. Save that. That compiles, and now it goes all the way to 100% of the screen. Regardless of pixels, it'll stop at 100%. And while that's helpful, when Flexbox really helps is when we talk about lists, grids, basically anything where you're having multiple components take up different portions of the screen. So let's put that into our own website by adding that into app.js and filling out a little more of this post list. So let's start out just like we imported this post item. We're going to do the same thing for a post list, and we're going to make sure that this imports the post list and uses the post list inside of the app. Now inside a post list, there's some things we need to take out. For example, tile data is nowhere to be found. We haven't talked about how we're pulling in data or anything like that yet. Inside this list, let's see, we're not really using much of this, so let's get rid of all of it for now and just put in a post item inside the list like that. Make sure to import it up at the top here. And we'll do that just like our other imports with import post item from, you can look back at these paths, it's in that same folder and just called post item. So we'll import that and check it out. Let's double check these compiling. Yep, it works, and now an individual post item is getting showed inside of that post list. Nice. So we'll really dive deep inside of Flexbox and how to order your components in this next tutorial, but for now, hope you got this working, and we'll see how to make a real blog post list next time. Thanks again.